Malang Dumlang, hello, it's Simply Spizzle here and welcome back to my YouTube channel, but also a special welcome to you if you're joining me here for the very first time. Before we get into this video, allow me to wish y'all a happy Pride Month. Slay, queen, work, hunty, the house down, boots. What am I doing? Happy Pride Month, y'all. Even though I'm not sure when this video will be up, if it will be up early July, I'm gonna try to get it out before Pride Month ends, but if not, I'm recording this during Pride Month, so that has to count for something. Before we get into this conversation, I do want to say, if you're not yet subscribed, please do hit that subscribe button, notification bell, also give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it, and let's get into it. So you can tell the title, today we're going to be discussing homophobia in medicine, and I've been meaning to record this video for weeks now, but just due to life happening, I haven't had the chance to actually sit down and film. And what had it originally inspired this video was a homophobic experience I had at the hospital. But recently, y'all, someone called me while I was recording. Anyways, as I was saying, what has originally inspired this video was a homophobic experience I had at the hospital, but also recently with the first monkeypox case being found in South Africa, there's also been some homophobic sentiments that have been shared in that regard. So without further ado, let's talk about homophobia in medicine. So I think we can't talk about homophobia in medicine without necessarily, without talking about the history, right, of how in the past homophobia was treated as a mental illness. I think in DSM-5 it's only, I can't remember the exact date because I did research of this video a while ago, but it's only quite recently that homosexuality was removed from the DSM-5. So those of you who don't know what the DSM-5 is, it's basically it's like a diagnostic manual that they use in psychiatry to determine it's basically, it has, how to explain this in simple, it has a different psychiatric conditions, and then it gives it defines them. And so in that book, homosexuality used to be considered a mental illness that used to be treated through various methods. And I do actually talk a bit about that in my podcast episode about conversion therapy. It's titled Ex-Gays and Conversion Therapy. I'll link it down below. And so, as I was talking about, how there was a homophobic experience that happened to me, basically, it was while I was rotating in surgery. Thank God I'm done. There were actually two incidences. The first one was when I was at the clinic, and a patient came in with, I think they had anal warts or something, and then the doctor was just asking them, getting the history, and at some point the doctor asked, it was a male patient, asked the patient, do you have sex with men? And the patient said no. And the doctor was like, good, don't. And that for me, it didn't upset me, I wasn't it didn't trigger me or anything, but I was just that's not, no. What do you mean? I think rather than discouraging the patient or saying you shouldn't be having sex with men, because that is homophobic. I'm sorry, there's no other way of framing that. That is homophobic. You should rather educate the patient how to have safe sex, right? Those are the conversations that we should be having. And then the second incident was when I was a doctor, I think there was a doctor talk about another patient had anal warts, and that patient was also HIV positive, and the doctor was talking about how HIV is a punishment from God, it's God's judgment, and that triggered me. I'm not gonna lie, that triggered me. That really upset me, because also, when HIV first, was first discovered, that's exactly the things people were saying, right? Because, it was associated as a gay disease, and also people were saying it was God's judgment. So that really, I remember even one of my classmates, turned to me and said, are you okay? At first I was like, yeah, I'm okay. I was like, actually, no. I was like, you know what, I'm going to the bathroom. I just needed to remove myself from that situation. And I remember, the funny thing is, on that day, that happened, in the morning, and then when I came back from the bathroom, literally, they're like, which student wants to scrub in for surgery? And no one volunteered. Somehow I found myself scrubbing for surgery. So I had to, literally just shake it off. I couldn't really process what had happened. And, late in the afternoon, I was like, okay, but am I overreacting? Am I reaching? All these questions, that we tend to ask ourselves. And, it's kind of I also at the same time, but you can't blame me for being hypersensitive, with these things, because it also is a form of protection, right? You do sort of want to engage the room or environment, is this a safe space? Or is this a space where I could possibly become the victim of violence. And in that case, I think like it was really just like my entire body just hearing those words. And he said a bunch of other things, but like I blanked out. Like I blacked out. Like I tried zoning out. I was just not okay. So I can't actually tell you word for word what he said. But that line really stuck to me. And then it makes me wonder, right now, if this doctor has this kind of view, right, these type of doctors, how will that impact how they treat patients, right? If a patient who is from the LGBTQ plus community comes into their office, how will they treat them? Will they, like I'm sure there are probably people who might not agree with the lifestyle, whatever the hell that means. But if a patient comes, to be professional, courteous. But then there might be others who will start spewing that homophobic mess, that queerphobic mess to their patients, and that's gonna obviously impact the healthcare. It's gonna deter patients from coming to seek healthcare, even if their issue, let's say, might not have anything to do with their sexuality or their gender. And I think I've spoken about this, how I'm also concerned about my classmates, because I saw my classmates who they just say some really ignorant things. Like some of the stuff, like I feel like there's just something we can tell, this is just someone who just needs to learn. Like they just need to read a book. Someone should just educate them. And so I do wish that within the medical curriculum, there was more that was done to teach, to train healthcare workers on LGBTQ plus issues and how to deal with LGBTQ plus patients, because another thing, like we always talk about how, you treat the patient as a whole, not just their disease, or not just, they're not just their illness, right? But you need to treat them holistically. But I feel like a lot of LGBTQ plus patients, they cannot bring their full selves into whether it be a consulting room or the hospital or casualty, whatever the case might be, because I know of a friend who they were getting an HIV test, and they mentioned to the person doing the test that by the way, I'm gay and I have a boyfriend. But later on, when they do like the counseling, the person's like, yeah, so you and your girlfriend must use protection, and it's like, ma'am, are you choosing to ignore what I just said? Like, what's happening? What's happening? And even I think about how when I'm wearing, especially when I'm wearing a mask, like if I'm wearing a mask and you can see how my hair is, right? So after I have a mask, I would have sometimes patients will not be sure, like am I like my gender, right? Especially like I've had like sometimes some patients will assume I'm female. They'll be calling me ma'am, whatever, sister, like maybe because I think I'm a nurse when I'm wearing my scrubs. And actually just remember another incident where I was supposed to present a patient, and then the doctor was like, are you a male or a female? And that was a very uncomfortable, I was so uncomfortable. Like in that moment I was like, um why are you asking? Like it felt like a very inappropriate question. Like the way the question was phrased was very inappropriate. I think it like I feel like there is if for example he was asked, like there is a way for of maybe asking someone like, what are your pronouns, like, or what like, do you have an issue with any gender terms? Like there is a way if you try to be inclusive, but I could tell this is someone who has a very binary view of gender. It's kind of like, now this is not a safe space for me to start like coming out and maybe explain, oh no, I'm non-binary and this is what non-binary means and all of that. And I kind of felt like in that moment I had to misgender myself and be like, I'm a male. And I think even, and then he kept saying what it just, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, I'm getting triggered just talking about, like I actually had forgotten about that. I just like unearthed a buried memory. But this brings us on to even the issue with the monkeypox, right? Where now they're saying that it is common with men who have sex with men, and that's probably how it was introduced to certain countries. Like, what? What? Like, did we not learn from the HIV and AIDS epidemic what happens if you frame a disease that can affect everyone as just being a gay disease? Like, I saw people on Twitter, people discussing, saying, because now you're gonna have, if like straight men, they contract monkeypox, they might not want to seek healthcare for it because they're like, okay, they're gonna think I'm gay, because that's what was happening during the HIV and AIDS epidemic, right? If someone contracted HIV, they were like, are you gay? Like, how did you get this disease? Like, you shouldn't be having this disease. And put into context, right now in South Africa, but all over the world, right, hate crimes are on the rise, right? LGBTQ plus people are literally dying. And the fact that medicine, healthcare, yes, I feel like there have been improvements in certain areas. For example, like, with homosexuality no longer be considered a mental illness. But we can still talk about how the language regarding gender dysphoria and just like, healthcare for transgender people is not that accessible. Like, I know of people who've had really horrible experiences because, the doctor, sees like, you don't fit the textbook definition of what it means to be transgender. You don't have gender dysphoria the way the textbook or whatever source they're using. And it's kind of like, I think there's still so much that needs to be done, and it's upsetting me and the girls. Like, I don't know what to say. It's upsetting me and the girls, and I just wanted to come on here on my YouTube channel, on my platform, and talk about this because I feel like, there's a lot that can be done. But I know that, me myself as an individual, there's not much. There's only so much I can do. Like, I do think about my future prospects in medicine. Like, what do I want to do? Like, people often ask me, "So what do you want to specialize in?" People sometimes even say what fields they see me specializing in, and it's like, that is all like, great and fun. Like, maybe like I'm currently rotating pediatrics, and I'm actually really enjoying it. As I mentioned in my previous video, I really enjoy my time in internal medicine. And I do think, I do want to, work a bit in clinical medicine for a while, because I do also enjoy the interacting with patients day to day. But I also would like to, at some point, right, maybe work in public health and work on like legislation, like be able to be in a position where I can also implement like systemic changes. And I feel like that's like the what of what I want to do with my career in medicine, but I guess I'm still figuring out the how for now. But yeah, that pretty much sums up my thoughts on this topic. At least for now. At least for now, that's what I have to say. I could say so much, but there's actually so much more. But I feel like I want to keep this short and concise. So thank you so much for watching. Yeah, so I'm hoping that everyone who watched this learned something from it, and that we all, try to do our part, try to make a difference. Because like I said, me on my own, I can't like dismantle an entire system. But if we all together, like if we, like the people who work in healthcare, start pushing for these changes, and even the people who receive healthcare, right? And it's gonna take not only the LGBTQ plus community, but even we're gonna need the help of allies to come together and be like, we demand better because we deserve better. Like at this point, like we're not really asking for much, just asking for decency, respect. Like, we're humans after all. We're humans first. Like, whatever preconceived ideas you have is irrelevant. Like, respect me as a human being. On that note, I love you guys so much. Until the next one, bye.